So you guys can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can start. We can start. Now this first part will go first. It's nene. It's pretty basic, but it covers some important stuff. Nene, especially questions wise. I've seen them in the board exam. So can just start with definition. What is pharmacology? It's the study of drugs. Simply put, pharmacology is a study of drugs, and then a drug is any substance that alters the normal functioning of the body or the normal physiological system of the body. It modifies it or alters it. Yeah. Then looking at drug nomenclature, we know there are three ways to name a drug. There's the chemical name. For example, if it's aspirin, the chemical name is acetyl salicylic acid. If then the non-proprietary name or the generic name, now the generic name will be now aspirin itself. It's the name it's known by in the whole world. Then the proprietary name or the brand name, the trade name, something like Ascad or Augmentin, that's a trade name, right? So chemical names, we know it's based on the structure. Non-proprietary name, it's a shorter version of the chemical name. Then the trade name is given by the manufacturers. Yeah. We don't want to dwell much there. Now let's come to sources of drugs. Sources of drugs, we can have 5 sources. We can have plants, yeah, plants such as the likes of morphine. We know we get them from plants. We can have animal. We have stuff like the porcine insulin, right? Insulin used to be gotten from animals before biotechnology came in. Then microorganisms, the likes of penicillins, streptomycin, we get them from microbes. Mineral, just a second. Okay, sorry for that. So minerals here, we are talking the likes of the calcium, the magnesium, the metals, basically, aluminium. We get them from the minerals, the soda ash, right? Then semi-synthetic and synthetic. For semi-synthetic, here we are talking about it's like the natural source, but we've modified it just a little bit. For example, something like amoxicillin. Amoxicillin is semi-synthetic because penicillin is natural, and then you modify penicillin a bit, you get amoxicillin, ampicillin, so that makes it semi-synthetic. Then synthetic, we know that one is from the lab. It was made from the lab, like from the word go. It was all made from the lab. Now let's look at plants. And for plants, we can obtain drugs from different parts of the plant, from the leaf, from the bark, from the roots, the seeds, the fruit, from all areas. For example, for the digoxin drug, we obtain from the leaf of the digitalis plant, and it's used for congestive heart failure. Quinine from the bark of the cinchona species, morphine from the fruit of the opium plant, things like those. So you can obtain a drug from different parts of the plant, the leaf, the stem, the bark, yeah, all of these areas. Yeah, this is just a continuation. And we'll look at all of this when we are covering the likes of alkaloids, glycosides, all of this, and the parts, how to extract, all of that will be covered later. Yeah. So this is just a depiction of morphine preparation. And here, at least we will be able to define a crude drug. Now, here it is. We said morphine, we get it from the fruit, right? Where is that fruit? Here it is, the fruit. It's usually called the fruit. You cut it, you get the juice. Yeah, so the crude drug is whereby you haven't done much. You've dried it, or you've just extracted it, or you've just cut it into pieces. In short, the drug is still in its natural form, kind of. Like you haven't modified it in any way. So that's what we call a crude drug. I've gone to the shamba, I've taken some leaves and I've maybe boiled them or cut them, and then I say that is my drug. That's a crude drug. I haven't modified it in any way. Then after a crude drug, the next step we get is a pure drug. Now here what we've done is extraction, because we know that leaf or that fruit, that seed, it contains more than morphine. It contains all of these other ingredients. So the pure drug, it's now you've extracted morphine specifically from its mixture, from the mixture of the you got of the crude drug. Then finally we have the pharmaceutical preparation. Now here we are seeing morphine sulfate tablets, right? Or an oral solution, a solution for injection. Yeah, now that one we call it the pharmaceutical preparation. So you start with your natural source. From your natural source, you get the crude drug. From your crude drug, you can extract your pure drug. Once you've extracted your pure drug, such as morphine, you can now make tablets, you can make a syrup, and all of that. Yeah, but we'll look more at crude drugs later. Then these are just other example. The vinca rochie, we get the vinca alkaloids. Digitalis, we get digoxin. All right, we said here it's from the leaf. Cinchona quinine, we said it's from the bark, and all of this stuff. Now, these are the important pharmacological compounds in plants. We have the alkaloids, the glycosides, the oils, resins, gums, tannins, all of this. And starting with alkaloids, because alkaloids are the most, you can say they are the most important, or they are the most common, and also they are the most tested. Now, for alkaloids, what's unique is just that they have a nitrogenous heterocyclic base. So you'll have a structure. Heterocyclic means it will be in a ring, but somewhere you have to have a nitrogen. Somewhere you have to have a nitrogen. That would now qualify to be an alkaloid, a nitrogenous base. Yeah, a nitrogenous heterocyclic base. Then they are insoluble in water. They form salts with acid, which are soluble in water. All of these, the characteristics, we'll see them later. But with alkaloids, what is unique is the nitrogen component has to be there. That's what makes an alkaloid an alkaloid. Yeah. Then for glycosides, from the name glyco, meaning there's a sugar moiety. Then there's an oxygen which links the sugar moiety to the non-sugar moiety. So a glycoside, you can say a glycoside has two portions, a sugar moiety and a non-sugar moiety, a sugar portion and a non-sugar portion. That's what makes up a glycoside. And now when you hydrolyze with an acid, the glycoside, you split it into that one sugar portion and one non-sugar portion. The most common glycoside we know is the cardiac glycosides, the digoxin, again, which is obtained from the leaves of the digitalis purpurea. Yeah. So glycosides, there's a sugar and a non-sugar moiety. That's the unique thing. Then we go to oils. For oils now, there are different types of oil. You know, there's essential oil, fixed oil. These two are the ones which will see the difference, and then mineral oils. So for the essential oils, you'll notice that they obtain from leaves or flowers by steam distillation. They have no food value, and they do not form they do not form soaps with alkaloids, and they are not foul smelling on prolonged exposure. But when we come to fixed oil, we'll see they become foul smelling on any prolonged exposure. They form soaps with alkaloids, and they have a food value, caloric value. Then the fixed oil are non-volatile, the essential oils are volatile, right? Those are the chief differences. These ones are volatile. They have no caloric value. They don't form soaps with alkaloids, and they do not start smelling when they stay for long. The fixed oil, non-volatile, they have some caloric value. They form soaps with alkaloids, and they become foul smelling on exposure, on long exposure. The classic example of essential oils, we'll see the likes of the carminatives, which are used when someone is bloated, stuff like ginger, antiseptic mouthwash, flavoring agents. We'll see all this. We are just covering this as an overview. So we'll see all of this when we're talking about oils and such stuff. Then the mineral oils, they are just obtained by dry distillation of woods, things such as the liquid paraffin. The resins, these are polymers of volatile oils, and they are insoluble in water. The most common resin you see always been mentioned everywhere is benzoin. And benzoin is used as to relieve congestion as an inhalational in common cold. You'll notice in this drug called Carvol or Sinarest, there's some benzoin in it. Yeah. Then gums, we know they are more adhesive mucilages, colloids. They are used as emulsifying or suspending agent. For tannins, they are unique because they are non-nitrogenous phenolic derivatives from plants. Sometimes you can be confused with alkaloids and tannins, but alkaloids, we say they are nitrogenous heterocyclic compounds. Tannins, non-nitrogenous phenolic derivatives. We remember the structure of phenol. It was the it was an OH here attached to a benzene ring. So they are derivatives of phenol. They are derivatives of phenol. They are soluble in water. Remember, we said alkaloids are not soluble in water. Yeah. Then let's look now at so for the plant sources, the take-home message is, number one, you can get from different parts of the plant. You get from the leaf, you can get from the bark, you can get from the fruit, from the roots. You can get it from all of these different parts of the plant. That's the main thing. The other thing is just these different parts of the different classifications found in plants. The alkaloids, which are the main, they're nitrogenous heterocyclic bases. We have the oils, we have the resins, yeah, all of those. Then for a second, just let's switch to this just for a second here, because it's related. Because when we've said crude drugs is when you've simply done what? You haven't done much to your drug. You've obtained that plant part. In this case, let us work with, you've obtained the plant parts. Then after collecting, for example, your leaf, your bark, your fruit, you've only subjected it to something like drying or cutting, peeling, right? And that is what your crude drug is. Literally, you can say you haven't done much to the compound, to the plant. Yes, Saru.
Let me ask.
Uh-huh.
So these crude drugs, it's like maybe from a natural source, but it's still processed. So would you call it natural drugs or like a semi-processed drug? Or it falls under natural drugs?
No, here they are still natural.
Okay.
What you've just done, for example, as it's written here, you've just dried or you've peeled, you've cut, you've peeled, like you can say you haven't added any chemicals to that drug. It's still your leaf, and you've just dried your leaf or you've cut your leaf. Yeah. So it's still all natural. Yeah,
Okay,
they exist in natural form, the crude drugs.
Guys,
Yeah.
could you say that you've not extracted like the active part that you want?
Yeah, true. You've not extracted the active parts. Yeah, it's still the combo. Like if you can go here from the example that was put, yeah, here it is. You see, you got your fruit or your seed, whatever the nini, and you just dried juice of the poppy seed capsule. That's your crude drug. That juice has morphine and it has other stuff. So you haven't extracted an active ingredient or an active drug. You're just utilizing it in that natural form. Yeah. Then now, for Nene, I just wanted us to cover one thing here in crude drugs, and that is we classify crude drugs based on morphology into organized and unorganized crude drugs. Oh, yeah, here it is. They are organized and unorganized. So for organized, this is, or cellular, if you want to call it cellular, it's simple in that you've derived it from a specific part of the plant. So it's either you've derived from the leaves, something like digitalis, from the bark, right? Something like the cinchona, the quinine. So for organized crude drugs, you've obtained them from a specific part of the plant. In short, the drug of interest is concentrated in a specific part of the plant. Then for unorganized, you'll notice unorganized are more of the products that are derived from, you can say they are not concentrated in any specific parts. Like it's derived from all parts, or like from where is it? Yeah. Like dry juice, like you're noticing for organized, we said here, from the leaves we get this drug, Senna, Datura, digitalis. From the bark, we get this part. From the wood, from the roots, we get this, right? But for unorganized, you're seeing there isn't really a direct plant part. It's just from like the gum, you just get the gum flowing from the stem, and you obtain it from there. But you can't say that this gum, I got it from a specific part of the plant. Yeah, I just wanted to have that clarification, but we'll have more example when we are covering this in the evening. So we can go back here. So for crude drugs, I just wanted you to know there's the organized, whereby you get it from a specific part of the plant, and then unorganized, whereby it's not from any specific part of the plant. Yeah. Then animal sources. Animal, here we said insulin, we used to obtain insulin from pigs. Heparin, we obtain it from leech. So the other thing is protamine sulfate. We obtain it from sperms of fish, things like those. Yeah, this is not really tested as much, just that there's also animal sources. Then we have microorganism sources. Here we know, starting with penicillin, right? Penicillium notatum, the fungi, the griseofulvin, the streptomycin from that organism, neomycin from that organism. Yeah. Then mineral source, we already said here we are covering the metal cations, iron. We use it for anemia, magnesium, sodium, aluminum. You're noticing it's just these metal ions. Yeah. Then synthetic number one, we know synthetic drugs are the most used drugs in the market, right? We obtain them from the lab. Synthesis is from the lab. Then for synthetic drugs, we say that the quality can be controlled, the process is easy and cheaper, more potent and safer in large-scale production. Because for this, the natural drugs, sometimes it's hard to control the quality. Extraction may not be 100%, and all of these disadvantages. Just a second again. Yeah. So these are an example of synthetic drugs. So just if you ask which is the most commonly used class of drugs in terms of the source, it will be the synthetic drugs. They are the most common type of drugs that are used currently. Semi-synthetic, we already said, you just change the chemical structure of the natural drug. Something like changing the R chain of penicillin, then atropine bromide, Atropine is natural, but you've added the bromide. So now we can say it's semi-synthetic. Yeah. Then also human source, from urine, we can get stuff like urokinase, from pregnant women, you can get HCG. So even humans can be sources of drugs. Insulin, we can get it from a human and all of that. Then genetic engineering, we covered this when we were doing biotechnology, especially with insulin from E. coli. That's the most common genetically engineered drug on the market. Yeah. So unless there's any question, this Nini was just straightforward. It was to welcome you to the sources of drugs. So unless there's any question or addition, yeah.
No question on my side.
No question.
No question here.
But we can move to, we can take let me say 10 minutes, because now the other part is a bit bulky. So we can take 10 minutes, 10:40, we start on plant anatomy, physiology, and structure.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Aye. Now we'll cover something small or the survey of the plant kingdom, and then we'll move. So plants. Plants, they are eukaryotic. Right? We know the other eukaryotes, we know, are humans, animals, and fungi, but the likes of bacteria, prokaryotic. We know they are non-motile organisms. They can't move. Their cell walls are composed of cellulose, and they are autotrophic. Autotrophic meaning, in simple terms, they make their own food. But humans, animals, we say we are heterotrophic. We can't make our own food. We obtain our nutrients from stuff like plants, from other animals, and such things. So plants, they are autotrophic, meaning they make their own food. Humans, animals, we are heterotrophic. We obtain our food from other sources. We can't make our own food. Yeah. So importance of plants here, even we don't have to dwell on this. We know food, oxygen, they take up oxygen, they take up CO2, they give up oxygen. We use them for business-wise, rainfall, now global warming. Plants, we can even say they are sources of drugs, right? We don't have to cover the importance of plants. Now, anatomy, we know anatomy deals with structure, but physiology deals with function. So we don't need to define that. Physiology will deal with function. Here is where we'll spend a bit of time. Then nutrition-wise, soil, this part was not even necessary, but let's mention just a few things here. These are the important plant processes: photosynthesis, respiration, growth, reproduction, tropisms, diannualisms, photoperiodism. We know the most important here is photosynthesis. This is what is important, especially even to us, to our survival, photosynthesis. And that's the one we look at. Photosynthesis is an anabolic process. Now, taking you back to biochemistry, we have anabolic and catabolic processes. Catabolic processes are processes which involve breaking down something. Like glycolysis, we'd say it's a catabolic process. We break down glucose to smaller stuff such as pyruvate, lactate, all of those things. But an anabolic process, an anabolic process, on the other hand, is whereby you're forming things. Now, for example, here, photosynthesis is an anabolic process. We use light energy to form complex compounds. You can say gluconeogenesis, that formation of glucose, is an anabolic process. Like we are using smaller things to form a bigger thing. So anabolic, in short, know that we are forming something. Lipogenesis is anabolic. Glycogenesis, we know that word genesis means formation. Any genesis that is anabolic, we are forming something. Then catabolic, we know, is lysis, glycolysis, lipolysis, glycogenolysis. We are breaking down something. Yeah. So just know photosynthesis is anabolic. We form complex sugars from smaller things such as CO2 and all that. Growth, we look at growth, reproduction. We look at this when we are doing physiology, plant physiology. Then for tropisms, here we know tropisms is whereby a plant responds to a certain stimuli. For example, we say phototropism is where a plant responds to light. Remember the experiment of a plant bending towards a hole where the light comes from. For example, if you have a plant and then if you have a plant here and then you cover it, but you make a hole here where light can be coming from. That plant will start growing in this direction. That is phototropism. The plant grows towards that stimulus of light. Then water is hydrotropism, whereby the roots, they will go towards where water is, hydrotropism. Also gravity, we call it geotropism, where gravity pulling the roots to the center of the earth. Yeah. Then also we have chemotropism. Chemotropism, here we are talking about the plants moving towards a certain chemical. It may be fertilizer, it may be one thing or the other. But the main one is phototropism, where the plant will curve, it will bend, looking for where the light is, so that photosynthesis can take place. Yeah. Then photoperiodism just controls. This is about the day, not the day and night. Yeah, let's say day and night, whereby we have short day plants, they thrive in less than 8 hours, and then the others which want longer hours of sunlight. Like there are plants which want short hours, others want longer hours. Yeah. Plant forms, annuals, biennials, and perennials. Annuals, they only grow once in a year. For example, something like plums, right? Plums, we say season, yes. Plums is January there. It only grows once in a year. It has one season in a year. Then we know bi means two, so it has two growing seasons still in that year. Then perennials, they have a number of growing seasons in a year. So essentially, you want your staple food to be perennial. Something like maize, you want it to be perennial. It grows over a number of seasons or throughout the year. You can have maize. Yeah. So let's look at the survey of the plant kingdom. Before we go there, there's this the taxonomy, how we classify from the domain all the way down to the species, right? Now, domain, here there's this mnemonic. We start with domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus. The mnemonic is this one. Dear King Philip came over for good spaghetti. Dear King Philip came over for good spaghetti. Dear is a domain. Then king, kingdom, phylum, Philip, class, order, family, genus, species. So you can, once you have this mnemonic, you're good. Dear King Philip came over for good spaghetti. Or Dear King Philip came over for good soup. Yeah, whatever you need. So looking at plants specifically, now for plants, here I think we remember these rules from high school that the genus and species name, if you're writing them down manually, like with a pencil, with a pen, you capitalize the first letter of the genus name, and then the species name is not capitalized, and then you underline. But if you're writing them, if you're typing them down in a computer, you just make them into italics. Just that. Yeah, those were the rules. Yeah. Yeah, so Kingdom Plantae has 4 major phylums or divisions, right? The Bryophyta, the Pteridophyta, the Angiosperms, and the Gymnosperms. Now here, let me just let's do this so that we summarize it when it's here. For Bryophyta here we're talking about the mosses. That's Bryophyta. Bryophyta, we are having the mosses. Then for the Pteridophyta here we are having the ferns. We're having the ferns there. Then angiosperms, let me skip angiosperms and let's go to gymnosperms. Here we are having the coniferous plants. Coniferous plants. Yeah. Then finally, the angiosperms. The angiosperms, these ones are we call them the true flowering plants. True flowering plants. And for the angiosperms, let me even put this here. We write here angiosperms, because angiosperms is the main one. Angiosperms is the most important phylum of the plants, right? It contains more than 80% of the plants we see here in nature. It's the angiosperms. More than 80% of plants is the angiosperm. So it's the most important class. And they are called the true flowering plants. Even drugs, most drugs will be here. Most drugs, most food. So that's why the angiosperms are the most important ones. So these other ones you just need to remember. Bryophyta is mosses, pteridophyta is ferns, gymnosperms is the coniferous plants. That's all you need to remember. But for angiosperms, know that it's the most important phylum, the most important division. The other name for phylum is division. It's the most important. Here is why we even classify plants into monocots and dicots. Monocots and dicots will be here. Monocots versus dicots. Yeah, and angiosperms is where our focus will be. For these other ones, that's the summary. That bryophyta, we are having the mosses. Pteridophyta, we are having the ferns. The gymnosperms, we are having the coniferous plants. But the angiosperms, we call them the true flowering plants. Here is where we'll obtain most drugs, most food, and we have the classification of monocots versus dicots. Yeah. And then, so right now, I think we'll just, now we'll just summarize, and because we've already said bryophyta, doesn't mean it. Yeah, let me clear that. Yeah, so just remember this. Bryophyta, we are having, these are the mosses. Pteridophyta, again, it's the ferns. The gymnosperms is the coniferous plants. Angiosperms is the most important division of the kingdom Plantae. Here is where we'll have our food coming from this division, our drugs, the likes of alkaloids will be here. And then our very important classifications in angiosperms will have our monocots and dicots. Remember from high school, monocotyledon and dicotyledon. Yeah. So take-home message from Kingdom Plantae, this is a take-home message, honestly. Because we cannot go looking at each and every plant, but this is a take-home message. Know the 4 divisions and know what they are commonly referred to as bryophyta, mosses, pteridophyta, ferns, gymnosperms are coniferous, then angiosperms, the true flowering, and here is where we're obtaining most of our stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So after that, we'll just be seeing examples of examples. So bryophyta, we already said here is where we have our mosses. Pteridophyta, here is where we have our ferns. Yeah. Gymnosperms, we said here is the coniferous plants. We do not consider gymnosperms as true flowering. Angiosperms, this is the largest group. It's the most important source of food for us, for the birds, for everyone. In addition, it's an important source of pharmaceuticals. So angiosperms is the main one. Angiosperms is what we depend on. And angiosperms is even what we look at when we are discussing further these things. The flowers, the xylem, phloem, will majorly be focusing on the angiosperms. Yeah. Now let's just go to, because we've mentioned monocotyledon and dicotyledon, we say that is a classification within the angiosperm. Yeah, within the angiosperms, we have the monocotyledon plants and the dicotyledon. Now, let's just differentiate between the two. The characteristics of a monocotyledon and the characteristics of a dicotyledon. There's a picture here. Yeah, here it is. Monocots versus dicots. So, yeah, in a monocot, we are seeing the seed as one cotyledon, in a dicot, two cotyledons. The root, now, these are the main differences. In the root, monocot has a fibrous root, dicot has a tap root. Monocot has a fibrous root, dicot has a tap root. Remember, maize is a monocot, beans is a dicot. Then the venation of the leaves, we'll see monocots have parallel veins, dicots have net-like veins. Then when we are looking at the arrangement of the xylem and phloem, you'll see in monocots, it has a scattered arrangement in the stem. I can note this down, in the stem, it has a scattered arrangement. But in dicots, in the stem, it's a circular ring arrangement. It's ringed, right? Then in monocot, the flowers will occur in multiples of 3, in dicots in 4 or 5. Yeah. So these are the difference between a monocot and a dicot. Then if we can add there one last one here, and that is regarding the roots. When we're talking about the roots, or when we're talking about the root in terms of the xylem and phloem. In terms of the xylem and phloem. Remember, these are the xylem and phloem makes up the vascular bundle. We haven't looked at it yet, but we'll look at it. But in terms of the root, now for the monocot, it's the xylem and phloem are in a ring-like arrangement. They're in a ring-like arrangement. They are round here. But for the dicots, here it's in an X-shaped. X-shaped, or you can call it star-shaped arrangement. Star-shaped. So know that this ringed dicot is for the stem, but for the roots, we'll see star-shaped or X-shaped. Monocot in the stem, we'll see it's scattered, but in the root, we'll see now it's ringed. In the root, it's ringed, yeah. Yeah, then, I think after that, we'll just, in a summary, look at just structure of some plant parts, and then that will be it. We'll finish early. In the evening is when we look at plant physiology. Morphology, we know, describes the form. Then when we're talking about morphology, we know, we look at the roots. These are the roots, the shoot, the stem, the leaves, right? The flowers. These are the nodes. Here, you see the node where the leaf is attached, and the other node here, and that interspace between one node and another node is called the internode. The internode. Now, this is important because there is a hormone we will see it increases. It functions to make this, to ensure growth of this place. Yeah. The root, the shoot, a plant grows in 2 ways. It grows downwards and it also grows upwards. Yeah. So yeah, we have the shoot tip and the root tip. Then plant habit. Habit just refers to how the plant generally appears. Is it a shrub? Is it a climber, a tree? Yeah, stuff like this. Something to note here is that the likes of rhizomes, tubers, these are stems. We call them specialized stems. But yeah, I saw this and I thought maybe someone can think you can say it's a root, but it's not a root. They are specialized stems. The rhizomes, the tubers, yeah, that's specialized stems. Root types, we know taproot and fibrous. Taproot, remember for taproot, we see this in the dicots. Then the fibrous, we see it in the monocots. Taproot is in a dicot, fibrous in the monocot. We know in the taproot there is one major nini. Yeah, just Mila.
Sorry, you said the specialized stem, there's rhizome, tubers, what else?
There's this other one called the stolon. Here they are. Rhizome, tubers, stolon. Yeah, even the twinners, like in passion, you know how passion goes. Yeah.
So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, then yeah, we were talking about the root, taproot and fibrous. You know, taproot is one major root, and then it has the branches, right? Then the fibrous, we know it has multiple branches. And taproot again, dicot, fibrous, monocots. Yeah, we have this other type of roots, aerial and stilled. We know aerial is majorly for plants that grow in water. So aerial roots are for they are there to it's like more of looking for air. Plant leaves, how they are arranged, alternate, opposite. Yeah, all of this. Okay, we won't go into much detail because I haven't seen this ever been tested. Simple leaves, compound leaves. Yeah, we won't go into much detail. Yeah, but leaf shapes, you can just know there are these different types of leaf shapes, round, elliptic, oblong. Again, I haven't seen it being tested, so that's why I'm just skimming over this. The leaf margin is a smooth margin, serrated, dented, crenate. All of these are types of leaf margins. Entire or smooth, serrated, dented, sinuate, lobed. Yeah. Yeah, so again, we're not going into so much detail because like I'm also basing my discussion on stuff I've seen being tested in the exam. So if you see me skipping stuff, it's because I didn't see it being tested. So yeah, there's no need to memorize a lot of things then. Yeah. Then the flower. Just looking at the flower. The flower, we can just work with this. The flower, we know here, we'll start from here, the sepals. The sepals, we know they are there for protection, right? The sepals are what came first. When the flower was sealed, when it was in a casealed, those leaves that cover that flower before it blooms, we call them the sepal. They're there for protection. Then we have the petals. The petals, we know they are the ones that are brightly colored, pink, green, to attract pollinators. They attract the pollinators, the likes of bees. Then we go here, let's go to the anther and the filament. The anther and the filament, this form the male portion of the plant, the male reproductive portion. We know the bees, they will come and land on the anther, take the pollen because that is where pollen is produced, then come to the stigma and drop the pollen there. So the stigma here is where the pollen is dropped. The style is where the pollen will go down, meet the ovule. This is the ovary. The whole place is called the ovary. The ovule is now the seed. It will meet here. It will grow now and will have a fruit. So the male portion of the plant, we have the anther and the filament. The female portion is this stigma right? The style and the ovary, the pistil or the nini, the female portion of the plant. Yeah. So mention all of these male. If if someone has an addition on this that you think it's relevant, yeah, you can add your addition. Otherwise, yeah, I'm done. Plant physiology, will look at it. Gioni, I didn't wanna bring a lot of things. So if there's any questions, additions, yeah.
Guys, I have a question. So the one for the flowers, what questions did you see according to, what questions did you see that they asked about flowers, if I may ask?
Actually, I
You-
didn't. I think I saw just one question whereby they were just asking which one forms the male portion of the flower, something like that. They don't go deep. They just ask that anther filament, and then the female part, it's the kina style and the stigma and the ovary.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, otherwise,
All right. Thank you.
yeah, they don't go deep.
Otherwise,
Yeah, they don't question a lot on flowers.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hey guys,
Mm-hmm.
for me it was just say thank you. Like umetupeleka through in a very, anyone can tell that you had gone through the notes, you had looked at what you wanted to share. Thank you.
Welcome. So take home message from our first subtopic, which was our first subtopic was what? Natural sources of medicine. Apple, we said no, the natural sources, it's not only plants, even animals are natural sources, microbes are natural sources. So plants, animals, microbes, right? Then we also saw crude drug. Remember, the crude drug is the drug is in its natural form. Natural, you can say even an extracted form, the way even Leting alituambia. Like you haven't extracted the active ingredient. It's like me going to eat leaves the foxglove, the digitalis purpura. I haven't extracted the digoxin, but it's there. So yeah, that's the crude drug. Then the other part, overview of plant kingdom. Just remember, angiosperms. It's the most common. It's the most important division. There is where we have our monocots and we have our dicots. Yeah. Yeah, apart from that, the others, it's just I didn't see the importance of it. Yeah. So if there's no questions, but we can meet in the evening, Ama.
Okay, sawa.
Okay, one last thing, yeah. Has anyone, this is for everyone, has anyone come across a saponin notes? Because from
Saponins are
the
part of
saponins are?
it's one of the classification of the glycosides, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we want to talk about it, then you can check it out under glycosides. Though I've not seen the glycosides. So there's a textbook. Maybe I'll share with you.
Kindly.
And I also
Atafi.
Sawa. Thank you.
Dan, can you send it to the group, please? Can you send the
No
textbook to the
problem.
group? All right. Thank you.
It's okay. Welcome.
Oh, and then by the way, in the group, anyone can add anyone. Like everyone is an admin. You can add anyone. So it's not that we are restricting anyone. So long as the agreement is just that we are proactive. That's just the agreement. Because I can see a fake Spider-Man here. I don't know who this fake Spider-Man is.
Oh, that is the one.
Umeniletea.
Wewe ndo unashindanga ukini-impersonate.
Sasa unani-impersonate. Hata una DP. Mimi nakuwa mpaka DP ya Spider-Man.
Ndatafuta.
See you guys in the evening. Let me stop the recording.
Ciao, bye.
Let me ask, this recording